All right. So today I want to go over kind of how to use the BiggerPockets calculators and over a deal that we've almost completed. We just completed the renovation the other day, just kind of tying up loose ends on there so we can get kind of mostly the way through the process on there. But this is going to be a single family BRRRR analysis, and we'll kind of go through step by step how 95% of this process works. So, first steps first is actually finding the property. So the way that this client found it is, I want to say he sent it to us, and it was, I think one of the first. Tony, it was your first showing. I'm pretty sure that we ever went to
Yeah.
a couple of months ago, and it's over on the west side of Cincinnati, tucked back in here on a just a small little house on a dead end street right over here in between West Price Hill and Western Hills. So that's typically, like a C minus type area. But over on the west side, we kind of just want to get as far back off the main streets as possible. It seems to be what we want to look for. And here is kind of what there's a tree in the way, of course. But this is what the house looks like on Street View. This is exactly what it looked like when the client decided to purchase it, and he's an out-of-state investor in California. So going through here, so Zillow links and everything, that's when he sent us. And then kind of just going through the pictures, and we can kind of see some things that need to be done. This looks like a pretty much rent-ready type place. We didn't have to do a whole lot. We actually didn't touch the kitchen at all. We redid all the hardwood floors as they weren't done super great. We did paint the entire thing because the paint job was pretty terrible. We got rid of these beams and stuff up here, this paneling wall. Didn't touch the bathrooms a whole lot. This is like super, super, super cosmetic, minimal rehab. Cleaned up the backyard. This is like winter pictures, so it looked better than this, or it looked more grown over and everything. When we did it, basement floor, we epoxied the whole thing, and this is all asbestos tile over here. So we definitely wanted to make sure that we got that covered up so the tenant doesn't go scraping at it or something like that. A couple of utility things. We actually ended up painting the entire house because we took a pressure washer to it and just started taking all the paint off the aluminum siding, which was not good. So this is a 3-bed, 1.5 bath house. It's only like 1,100 square feet over on the west side, and we bought this thing for $135,000, which I think, yeah, hey, look, there you go. I think that's what they were asking for. Yeah, so they were at 124,800 was their ask price. We came in at 135 because the numbers just worked at that, and kind of took it from there. And we were on something like this, we were estimating maybe a maximum of, maybe 15, 20 grand at the most, just from looking at the pictures. You really didn't have to do a whole lot, but this client decided, hey, the ARV's there. This is something I'd like to go forth and make it a little bit nicer. So we bought this for 135. First thing I like to come down here and do to kind of determine an ARV is see what Zillow says, right? It's not, the traditional tool a realtor's going to use, but it's what we have access to. So this one wasn't a comp when we bought it, but it's a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,400 square feet, just sold for 155,000 literally a couple of days ago. And you can see it's basically the same thing. I'd kind of argue this almost looks worse. Well, the kitchen, it looks basically exactly the same. It's just got dark cabinets and everything in it. All right, I'm going to go open up the BRRRR calculator. If you guys aren't familiar with how to get to that, or if you don't have a pro account on BiggerPockets, definitely recommend it just for the calculators, honestly. All right, so we're going to start a new report here. (1902) Ashbrook. And you don't have to enter any of these things in here. You just can if you want to. So finding property taxes in the city of Cincinnati, the best place to go for that is the auditor site. So I have it saved so it auto-populates, but it's just hamiltoncountyauditor.org. That's if it's in the city of Cincinnati, Hamilton County proper. And then, sorry, that was a little fast. I clicked on just the property search thing right over here. 1902 Ashbrook. And total tax right here. And I'm just going to use that current tax number just because, yes, your taxes can go up potentially on a purchase and everything, but they didn't, if you look at this, they didn't purchase it that long ago. Yeah, like 2021 to, oh my God, Vinebrook Homes, who is now bankrupt because, yeah.
Shocker.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're ever trying to search Hamilton County Auditor, it is also the #1 search if you start to type in the word Hamilton. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Hamilton County Auditor is the #1 search when you type HAMILT or something like that.
Oh, well,
so
there you go.
You don't have to remember it too much, but if you remember Hamilton, you'll probably find it.
Yep. Hamilton County is the city of Cincinnati proper. There's other cities like Norwood and stuff like that in there too, but it's all Hamilton County. So, and then we'll go through your purchase price. So they were originally asking that 124, where'd it go? Oh, I canceled out of it. They were asking that 124,800. This client decided, hey, I'm willing to do more than that. So let's put in that 124,800. So I always like to just start with asking price and see if it even makes sense at the asking price, right? We're pretending that this didn't make sense at all, even though we kind of know it did a little bit, at least for this particular client, right? So in here, what we were first thinking was, conservatively, maybe $20,000 in after repair value. Purchase closing costs, you can generally use like 1%. This is a pretty low purchase price house, so it's probably going to be a little bit higher than 1%. What this calculator is good at for the purchase price and the after repair value, or whoops, that's not what I meant to do. After repair, we'll come back to that. Closing costs, repair cost is where I meant to put 20,000. So the way that this calculator works is if you put in the purchase price, it's assuming you're taking a loan out for only the purchase price, not any rehab. However, most of our clients, including this one, are gonna take a hard money loan out on rehab and purchase price, right? So if you're analyzing a property using the BiggerPockets calculators, you're gonna take the estimated repair cost out and you're actually gonna add it in to the purchase price because you're getting a loan for that entire amount. At least that's how I do it. Purchase closing costs, because we're getting a hard money loan on this. I don't have all of his HUD statements. Well, let's make this really accurate. I save all this stuff, so all the HUD statements and everything like that, we can go and look through. Not that. This one. Okay, so he actually he paid $135,000 for this. He had a $5,000 earnest money, county taxes. He had a construction holdback of $26,500 on here. Let me see if I can show this without showing too much. Okay, so on here, we've got all your title charges on here. So he chose to take out an owner titles insurance policy on this property because he's going to be holding it long term. It'll transfer over when he refinances and everything. So that's a big chunk right there, $775 or so. He had a construction holdback on there, homeowners insurance as well. Any hard money loan is going to make you do that. You can get a quote for this, obviously, even before you purchase the property. If you've got a good insurance agent or our hard money lender, Liz, who we've had on here before, can help you get the insurance quote as well. So on here, he's got, I don't know what those numbers add to, 776, 275, like $1,500 in, well, more than like $2,000 in fees. And then there's an origination fee to your hard money lender. So he's at, let's call it $3,500 in fees, an origination fee, because we use a mortgage broker to help us obtain the loan. So you're at another, what, $5,500 in fees, and then a service fee to them. So he's at like $6,500 in closing costs on this. That's what you get with a hard money loan, is a lot of fees, but it allows you to build and scale and grow and finance all that stuff in there. So when I close this out, he was at, purchase closing costs were $6,500. In order to get this thing closed up with a hard money loan, we're leaving estimated repair costs blank because we're financing that into here. We're not using his exact number. We're using asking price and $20,000 in rehab, because that's what we think is going to happen. Chances are it's always going to go up after you get inspections and all that kind of stuff. And after repair value, so we can come in here, type in the address. So what I like to do on here is if you're in Zillow, you can right click on here, duplicate this Zillow page, close this out. If it will do that. And it's going to automatically zoom you into that neighborhood. And I already have mine set up on here. So that was a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom. Sold house. No condos, no townhouses. And then let's just go sold in the last 12 months. So these gray ones are not real. Those are Zillow's estimates that are not to be used as comps. We don't want to do that. We only want to look at the yellow ones, and there is not a ton. So we've got, this one wasn't even on there when we purchased this house, but we've got this house that's almost exactly the same. It's slightly larger. It's $155,000 ARV on here. It's a similar quality. Shoot, this is probably a Vinebrook home also. Actually, I'm pretty sure it is.
It is.
Yep. So you would know. So it's exactly the same. It's literally exactly the same finishes as when we bought this house. It was actually listed at the Dayton Area Board of Realtors. Great. And this is, I would say, like before value ARV, because it's pretty similar. It's just a little bit larger. So ARV wise, I feel like we're at least at $150,000 with the nice renovations and stuff like that we did. And I'll show you photos of what we did. But what I like to do is, this is our subject property, is kind of just wind down the streets within the same neighborhood, see if we can see anything, zoom out a little bit, again, see if we can see anything that's kind of similar in the general vicinity. It's like, okay, not really anything in that neighborhood. You know, if it's me, I'm going to go down here and be like, okay, well, this one's 150,000 also. Looks pretty similar, was renovated. Not bad, a little bit larger. It's got a lot of paneling. You know, it's kind of half a renovation, which honestly is kind of what he did to this house. So I'm going to put, just after those quick comps and everything like that, I'm going to say, I think this house would be worth 150,000. If those other ones got 150 and they kind of look like that, I think I can get 150 also. We can go more into how to find comps and everything, but let's go 150,000 on the after repair. So this is not going to be a cash purchase. Down payment of purchase price. So remember, that's our purchase price in this case is purchase price plus the rehab right now. And generally for a single family house, you're going to put 20% down for a hard money loan for purchase price and rehab. Your loan interest rate depends on how experienced you are with hard money and just investing in general. So this was actually his first property. So his interest rate was 12.5%, which is a lot. I normally leave ports charged by lenders and other charges from lender. I just leave all that blank. and put it up here in the purchase closing costs. Wrap loan fees, points into the loan. Yeah, we'll do that. This is hard money. So this is an interest only loan. It's a short term, 6 to 12 months. There's no PMI on any of these. Refinance after 6 months. So for a single family house like this, needing super minor things, I'm going to put 6 months in there because we're going to refinance after we get a renter. This project took us like 4 weeks to get this done. It was pretty simple. Rehab time estimated, I'm going to put 3 just to be more conservative on there, because it depends on when we can start, what the availability is. If there's a lot of mechanicals and stuff that have to go on, it really just depends. This next section is your refinance loan details. So this is going to be after you have renovated the property and rented it out. Is what is your refinance stuff, right? So enter your loan amount on here. So we're saying the after repair value is $150,000. So when you refinance a single family house, you are generally going to be required to keep a minimum of 25% equity in the property. So we're going to take $150,000 times 0.75. So that's 112,500. Oops. 112,500. There we go. Is what your loan amount is going to be, and that's what you're going to get back on there, and then that's what they're giving you a loan on, and you're going to keep in the rest of that $150,000 equity into the actual property. Your loan interest rate. So a lot of our clients are refinancing into DSCR loans because you can do it in less than a year because Fannie and Freddie changed everything. So if you have a loan on the property, hard money wise, you're going to have to wait 12 months before you can refinance into anything conventional. And I don't really want to wait that long. So our about average loan interest rate, and kind of what I'm running numbers at, is about 7.5. It just depends on your credit score and things like that. If you leave more money in the deal, so if you left 30% equity into the deal, you can potentially get this a little bit lower. I've had clients who left 25% in a single family and they were at an 8.5% interest rate, just due to credit score, things like that. So let's run it kind of worst case scenario and see what happens. Other refinance closing costs, lender fees, all that kind of stuff. Typically they're a little less than the acquisition stuff, but DSCR loans are pretty expensive. So I'm actually going to use the same closing cost fees again that we had for the initial. It's just going to be a different loan product, obviously, but I feel like that's a little bit conservative. This is not interest only. There is no PMI. So this is generally a 30-year loan. You can do 20 years, 15 years, whatever you want to do, right? But typically it's a 30-year loan to maximize that cash flow. You really don't have to put anything for cap rate in your area. Does anybody have any questions on this first page of the how to enter numbers for a hard money loan into the BRRRR calculator? We're all good? Sweet. Daniel and Alexis, if you can talk, you guys just went through literally this exact process on your place over on Oberon. Am I pretty dang close on purchase closing costs and things like that on the DSCR side? Because I don't always get to see what all those loan fees and stuff are, but I know you guys just went through that on a pretty similarly priced single family.
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly similar. We're still kind of going through the process right now. We actually got another appraisal done on it just recently, so we're still waiting for that number to hopefully boost up our cash back to us. So, but yeah, I mean, I think you're kind of spot on all the expensive cost.
Okay, cool.
To do it, yeah.
Sweet. Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure because you guys are going through it right now. So, do you know what your interest rate was?
Ours was 7.5 actually.
Okay. Are you leaving 30% or 25%?
25.
And you got 7.5?
Yeah.
Cool. They must have been better than the last time I saw one of these. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Cool. So let's run it at 7.5. I saw one at 8.5 at a 25% LTV, but that property may have been a little bit weird, but I'm always going to aim on the more conservative side just to make sure. But if you guys got that 7.5, I'm pretty confident in that. We'll throw that in here. So we'll go to next steps. So this is where you figure out total gross monthly rent. So on a property in this side of town, we're going to see what the Section 8 rent is, because more than likely this could potentially be a Section 8 rental based on where it is, based on the purchase price and the finishes. Could definitely make sense as a Section 8 rental. So I normally just type in HUD Section 8 rents, and it'll take you want the huduser.gov. Oh, so they have the 2024 numbers up now. Why is this different?
The one I was using today had the new numbers in it.
Oh, sweet. Oh, Abilene, Texas. Here we go. Cincinnati, Ohio. So this is actually by zip code.
Yeah.
So these are like the super small. They just updated this on me. Tony, what's the zip code over here? 45238. Yeah.
452. It's either 45238 or 225.
45238. Okay, cool. When in doubt, Control F. Okay, 45238. So this is by the bedroom. So this would be studio 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's saying that for this particular zip code, fair market rent for a 3-bedroom house is $1,250. So that's what I'm going to put in for my rent. That seems kind of low. Tony, does that seem kind of low to you?
Yeah, this is the updated ones.
What they do? They go down?
They went down by about 10%.
Oh, okay. Well, let's put that in there then. So for this particular property, I'm definitely going to put in what the Section 8 rent is, just because of the area it's in. It's more than likely going to be something Section 8. So let's put in 1250. For me, if I was going to put this in for a house with 2 bath, like this is a nice house. Like if it wasn't Section 8, I would probably put in like $1,350, $1,400 a month, and I don't feel like that's outrageous. But let's see what it looks like with the Section 8 rent in here. No other monthly income. And in this section, you would put in like if you had coin laundry or other fees and stuff like that. You could put in like pet fees and stuff like that in here if they were paying $25 a month, or you could just add that into your rent. It doesn't do anything different in the calculator. So fixed landlord paid expenses. So this is a single family property. So your tenant is going to pay all of the utilities. So electricity, water and sewer. There's no PMI. Garbage. There's no HOA. Monthly insurance. They're going to have renter's insurance, but you're going to have to pay insurance on there, not $1,500 a month. So I normally put $120 a month in there. Other monthly expenses. So single family, normally with multifamily, you'd put in like lawn care, things like that. It's already calculating your property taxes in here. So for this case, we're going to assume that the tenant is required to upkeep the lawn. Vacancy. So this side of town, I'm probably going to run a higher vacancy number, and I'm going to kind of adjust this number wise, because it's a percent of the gross monthly rent up here. So, saving $75 a month, you can take that number 75 times 12. So that's $900 a year. So you're assuming that basically your property is going to be vacant for 3 weeks out of the year, right? I feel like that's, enough to, if a tenant left, assuming it's in good condition, right, you can run this number however you want to, get it turned in 3 weeks and potentially have somebody rent it in there. If you wanted to go ultra super conservative, you could put like, oh, this is Section 8, I don't want to deal with that. You could put $125 in there. I keep hitting enter. So 125 is $1,500. So you're going to assume it's going to be vacant for about a month and a week. a month and a half, something like a month and a week, basically. Let's throw that in there. I think that's definitely more conservative. So repairs and maintenance. So on here, this is a property you just renovated. You should know everything there is about it. I'm hoping to God you fixed the water heater and the furnace and stuff like that in your thing. If you didn't, you're going to want to account for more repairs and maintenance. But for this, because we just did it, God dang it. Don't hit enter on the sheet or else it just takes you to the end. So 5%, so $62 a month. That's like if you got to fix a toilet every 2 months or something like that, you just fix the property. Hopefully there's nothing wrong on there. Assuming you covered all capital expenditures and everything during your renovation, I generally like to run a number that's between 4 and 10% on capital expenditures. If you know you need a new roof on there, the way that I like to do that is, okay, my roof is fine. Let's say it's a 30-year roof. It's halfway through its life expectancy. A new roof, let's say a new roof is $8,500. It's a small house. I would divide that by 15 years. So you know you need to be saving $566 a year. You can divide that number again by 12, and you know that you need to be saving at least $47 just for the roof every single month to be able to cover that in the next 15 years. So you can get as detailed as you want to on there to make sure that you're running your numbers as accurately as possible. Chances are you won't really do that until you get like an inspection, or if there's just something blatantly obvious, or maybe just add that into your renovation costs on there. I'm gonna put 5%. Damn it, and I hit enter again. So 5% on here. Management fees. So if this was your first property with us, our property manager, if you use Liz, who was on the last meetup, she charges 10% for the first unit you have with her. So this is one unit, one single family house, and then she charges 8% for the if you go to 2 units. So even that first one goes to 8. They all go to 8 after that. So I'm going to assume that this is worst case scenario. This is your first property, and we're going to pay $125 a month in property management fees. You can do these future assumptions if you want to. So annual growth income on here, let's say rent is going to grow 5% a year. Property value in Cincinnati generally grows 4% year over year. It's pretty steady here in the last 2 years. Don't make any sense. If this is a nicer area, you can put in whatever you feel like, or whatever Zillow tells you for the annual property value growth. I really don't pay attention to this, because if you look 30 years out, every property is worth like $47 million. It just exponentially goes from there. Annual expense growth. So you really don't have any expenses on here besides really your insurance. So let's say that goes up 0.5% every single year. And then when you go to actually sell the property, so that's going to be 7%. So I generally do 3% to the buyer's agent, 3% to the seller's agent, and about 1% of the sale price in closing costs. Calculate results. And for this particular one, the way that we ran numbers on here, this would show a monthly cash flow of negative $198, which is not good. But this client did end up actually purchasing this property. So we'll go back through. So what I normally do is look at this and I'm like, oh, well, those are really conservative numbers. You can either choose to pass on it, or you can kind of go checks and balances, change a couple of things. Like, to me, blatantly, like, that rent seems low. It's like, okay, I don't want to go Section 8. This is a nice house. It's nice, one of the nicer houses in the neighborhood and everything now. I think I can get $1,400 a month. Right? Let's see if we can maximize that rent. You can go back and change that, right? You can also go back and change the time to refinance.
I know the internet wasn't working. I reset the router.
And you can go through and change the month's time to refinance. You can go through and change any of that kind of stuff. All right. So this has your fancy little graph and stuff like that. Income, 50%. I don't use the 50% rule. And this is like the graph that shows you what it's going to be worth property, you know, profit if sold in the next 30 years is like $402,000. So the West Side's really going to take off in 30 years. So that's why we all invest. So you can use these if you want to, but what I'm going to go do is I'm going to hit the edit report button on here, and I'm going to go back through and put what he actually used for his real numbers. So he bought the property for $135,000, right? And we did $26,000 in rehab. So that's 161. Oops. $161,000 in there. After repair value, when we looked at it, we felt fairly confident we could get 175 for it. I'm not seeing those comps and stuff now. I'm just using what his numbers were when he originally did this. So $6,500 there. Again, we're leaving this blank because we're doing a hard money loan and we're taking a loan out on all of those things. Not a cash purchase, he's going to put 20% down. Loan interest rate is going to be 12.5% because he's brand new. I'm not going to change any of this stuff. I am going to be like, well, this is like a super minor rehab. So I'm going to leave 2 months to rehab it. So you can go that down here. We got it done in like a month and a half. And then I'm going to leave 60 days to get it rented out. Then something like this would probably rent out a little bit sooner, but let's say we got 60 days to rent it out. We can kind of reduce these numbers a little bit to see where we're at, right? So this loan value, because now we're assuming we have an ARV of 175, because that's what we originally thought on this one. So 175 times 0.75, because we're leaving in 25%. 131 to 50 is going to be your loan amount. I'm not going to change this. Same interest rate, same closing cost fees, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to wrap these up into the loan. Not interest only, no PMI, 30 years. So I think I can get $1,400 a month for this property. It's pretty nice. It's a single family house. They always rent for a premium. Section 8 does not distinguish between 3-bedroom apartment complex or three-bedroom single family house. But single families will always rent for a premium because that's like the cream of the crop for any renter is renting a single family house. No other monthly income, insurance stays the same. Let's say we feel like, you know, it's a nice property. We're going to get a good tenant in there. Our vacancy is going to be a little bit less. Let's keep repairs and maintenance on here. Say this is still our first property. Keep all this stuff the same. Oh, look at that. The numbers got even worse. So even with more rent, assuming a higher ARV in this situation is what caused this monthly cash flow to go down, because even though we're getting more in rent, our loan on our actual monthly expenses and stuff here. So you can come down to this breakdown on here. So your principal and interest went up because your loan amount went up, right? So if we came back, edited that report, and we said, well, I think it's worth $175,000, but I'm going to choose to keep more money in the deal. You can come down here and change this loan amount. So let's say we're going to keep 30% in the deal. So we're going to take that 175,000 times 0.7, 122,500. Next step. Not changing any rent or anything, just changing that one number. And I encourage you to go in here and play with this. So that gave us an extra $50-ish a month in extra cash flow because it reduced this principal and interest because we decided to keep more money in the deal, right? At this point, this guy is leaving money in the deal in order to have this cash flow slightly better. So on this one and this particular client, he doesn't really care about getting all his money back. And in this current market, that's not going to happen, right? You are not going to get every dime of your, you know, there's not a perfect BRRRR. I can't even find a perfect BRRRR, and I can do construction for cost and there's no real estate fees or anything like that involved, right? The perfect BRRRR is extremely hard to find in such a competitive market. unless you're willing to just go to just the worst neighborhoods, which we don't want to compromise on at all. So with that, he's going to choose. So what I'm going to do is play with this number and be like, okay, well, how much money am I actually going to have to leave in the deal, right? So he's putting this one down. So total cash right now, he's got $38,500 invested into this property. And his loan amount is, they rounded it to $129,000. So you can go back here, still sticking to that 175 ARV. You can mess with the ARV also if you're like, well, let's go more conservative, or I hope it comes back less, or whatever it may be. Let's say it's still 175,000, and let's say he's going to keep 40% in the deal. So 175 times 0.6. So that'd be a loan amount of 105. So even if he left 40% in the deal, so LTV of 60%, it's still showing that we're going to be a monthly negative cash flow of $30,000, and he now has $56,000 invested, right? He's leaving $50,000 in the deal, and we still have negative ROI. But he still chose to buy this deal because he's cool with leaving like 50% LTV into this property, just because he's like, well, I just want a rental property. I just want my cash to make money for me. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I'm going to come down here and do this at a 50. No changes. Hey, look at that. We make almost $100 a month, and our cash on cash return is 1.51%. Any questions on kind of going through here and numbers and stuff that you can play with? So he's leaving 73 grand in the deal, not to get a whole lot. So his numbers must have been different than obviously what I'm doing. This happened like 2 months ago. So I don't remember his exact numbers, but they were relatively similar to this. And he chose to continue to buy this deal, and that's on him. I did not help him run his numbers or anything like that. I just let him know what I felt, rent was, and how quickly we could get the deal done, the contractor quote, all that kind of stuff. What questions do you guys have on using this BRRRR calculator and kind of playing with it? And I can go through different scenarios if he was going to purchase this cash or a conventional loan or anything like that, if you guys are interested.
I want to see the cash.
You want to go the cash offer? All right. So the only difference on a cash offer, so you can actually use the purchase price and repair cost, like 26,000 something. And all you do is hit cash purchase right here, and it transfers you to cash. So you're still going to refinance after XYZ months. Oh, yeah, you're going to refinance. You don't have a loan, so you're not refinancing. You're just financing into, you could go conventional in this case because you're purchasing cash. There's no loan on the property, so there's no holding time or like settlement period that you have to wait. Fannie and Freddie doesn't do that for cash purchases, only if you had a loan previous. So let's say we're going to go cash purchase.
Wait, Mitch, I have a question on that.
Yes.
So on Elberon, we bought it with cash, and they said that we have to wait it's like a seasoning period or something like that.
Not if you bought it cash.
So everybody I've talked to says that they can do it. So even like Liz was saying, they can do it a 3-month seasoning period, where most are about 6 months or a year seasoning period.
You bought it cash, so you can refinance immediately into conventional. Now,
Okay.
I personally like the DSCR loan product better because you can refinance immediately into an LLC, and you're not using like your personal income and stuff like that to qualify, and the process is a hell of a lot easier. And starting out, if you don't make a lot of income right now, or if you need to use the income of the property to qualify for it, or whatever it may be, right? I still like the DSCR loan product, but you bought that property cash, you could refinance conventional if you wanted to. But Liz doesn't do conventional, so she's not going to necessarily.
Okay, so maybe that's the thing with Liz, and then the other lender I was talking to, kind of the same. He was telling me that he doesn't recommend going conventional either. But okay, maybe
because they're not conventional. They're not licensed mortgage brokers, right?
Yeah.
They do investor products. So if you want to explore that, let me know. I can send you Dan's contact. So yes, if you bought it cash, there's no seasoning period.
Okay.
So let's say we're going to keep the traditional 25% of LTV, 75,000 times 0.75, 131,250. Let's say we're going conventional. Conventional, your interest rate is probably going to be closer to like 6.5, almost a point better on there, because it is conventional. You can get better rates that way. There's just a hell of a lot more paperwork. Your refinance fees are definitely going to be less. If you do that, I'm going to say like at least $2,000 less, if not more than that. It's pretty cheap to refinance conventional, just because it's so common. Not interest only, no PMI, amortized over 30 years. Same rent. Let's keep all the same expenses and stuff in here. And it still looks the same. So it's still negative 100,000, but obviously it's better than the hard money loan at an LTV of 75,000. Keeping in $25,000 or 25%, sorry, into the deal, because there's not all those fees and stuff racked up on there, right? Like he's got 31,000 into the deal, and that's there is no down payment because he paid cash for all of it, right? And he's leaving 31,000 into the property, which almost is what the equity was on the property. He's going to leave a little bit money into the deal and everything, but your monthly cash flow is still negative on here. But that's how cash works. Any questions on cash and how that kind of changes things? It's just a couple different buttons and stuff you have to hit. Obviously, this property just keeps coming up negative, but it is what it is. It's just, I mean, for the acquisition part, there's no loan, there's no monthly interest payments or anything like that. There's no fees associated with this. It's total cash purchase it needed is down payment plus your closing costs, which this is actually a hell of a lot less, plus your rehab amount. So your purchase closing costs on a cash purchase is like taxes. It's like maybe I'd probably put $2,500 into there, but I doubt that that's necessarily going to change the numbers a whole lot.
Is there a way to show the numbers working? Like if there were to be the ability to profit like $100 a month? Like where would that, what would that look like if he were to get it at, I mean, does that just mean he has to get it at $100,000 in order for make that work?
Yeah. So, I mean, what you would do is if you're looking at this is, let's say your monthly income, so your gross rent is fixed, right? That you can't change necessarily what your rent is going to be. The only numbers you can change are either do less repairs and hope to God this comes back, or even hope for a lesser after repair value, right? And we can run what that looks like, or just pay less for the property, right? So let's say they're still doing a cash transaction. Go back here and edit this report. So let's say they were asking 124,800. Let's see if it even works at the asking price. Let's say our after repair value, let's say we're just going to go bare bones. We're not going to do like anything to this property, but we think that this property is still going to be worth $150,000. We're just buying it under market value. We're getting a good deal. All we got to do is paint it, right? So all we're going to do is spend 15 grand in this property, right? We're going to paint it. We're going to, fix what needs to be fixed, get the water issues in the basement solved, paint the outside, whatever, right? Super simple. Cash purchase still. So our new ARV is 150,000. 0.75. We're going to leave in 25% equity into the deal again. We're still going to refinance conventional, so we're going to keep that lower interest rate. Your refinance fees are going to be higher than a cash purchase, obviously. So we'll keep all this stuff the same. Not changing the rent, not doing anything here. Oh, look, we got it to be positive. So actually, by having a lower ARV and doing less to this property, it makes more sense as a rental at the asking price. Because there is such thing as over improving a property for the rent amount, because then your loan amount is too high for you to cash flow, if that makes sense.
I think that is the power of this tool, is the ability to play with these and make the right decision as far as like, how much does it make sense to do the repairs? Does it make sense to pay more or pay less? Like, I think that's the real power of this tool.
Right, exactly. And you can go back and edit this a million times, right? And you can go through and be like, okay, well, these numbers don't work for me. I want to make at least $100 in monthly cash flow, right? So you can come back here and assume everything else is staying the same, but you can change what the purchase price is, right? So what if I got this property for a steal, right? What if I got it for 100 grand, right? This is just a sweet deal. Bought it in cash. They took a cash discount because I can close in 7 days, right? I'm going to do $15,000 worth. Oh, that's because I didn't edit everything. I did $15,000 worth of work and it still worked, right? So $100,000 purchase price, $15,000. Loan amount, still based on the ARV. Oh, well, that's not going to change your cash flow, because it's all your cash flow is, this cash flow is based on your long-term hold, not what you paid for it. So you're just going to like total cash invested, because you bought it for less on a BRRRR, you just have less cash invested. So it makes your cash on cash return look awesome, but it doesn't make your monthly cash flow go up, right? You're making $10 a month on $500. That's pretty good, right? Because you bought it for less, but because your ARV didn't change, and that's what your final loan amount is based on, you're not going to cash flow anymore, right? So if you had bought this property as, let's use the BRRRR calculator, you can use it for different things to not BRRRR the property, right? Let's say we bought it for 124,800 like they were asking for, and literally did nothing to it. We didn't even refinance it. You can do that on here, right? Let's say we put $0 into it. Well, there's no, let's say we put $10,000. We did super minor. We just fixed little things that we came up on inspection. That's it, right? Bought it cash. So our after repair value, we're just going to assume that it's the same as the purchase price, right? We're going to sink that cash into it, and that's going to be gone. Times 0.75, 93,600, right? This is all the same. Basically, you're just buying it cash to get the deal closed quickly, and then fixing it up and just keeping all the money that you spent in the deal. You're not gaining any money. You're not doing anything. That's going to make your monthly cash flow go up, because we're just assuming that it appraises for what you bought it for, and that $10,000 or whatever that you spent rehabbing the property is just $10,000 gone, right? So your total cash invested is more because you bought it in cash, you fix it up, you refinance conventional, and you basically wanted to try to get the ARV lower on there, then your cash on cash return isn't super great, because you just left 10 grand into the deal, and your LTV didn't go up or anything. You're left 25% in the deal still, and your cash and all that stuff. Nothing went up, right? But your monthly cash flow went up because what I really like to look at is kind of the ratio between what your gross monthly rent is and what your ARV is, right? So in this case, the monthly income, your gross monthly rent, is higher than 1% of the after repair value. And the BiggerPockets has a great little tool here. So they have it as the 2% rule, but this meets essentially 1.02%. So it's slightly over the 1% rule. I don't know what the 2% rule is. I don't use that. You can, well, it's technically the 1% was your debt service coverage ratio. When you get a DSCR loan, that stands for debt service coverage ratio, which is basically just it's the 1% rule. It's what percentage of your, technically it's just PMI, does your rent cover, right? So in this case, your PMI is 1.21% of your monthly income. I think I'm saying that right. But regardless, it's the ratio of this to your after repair value. The better this is, the more rent you can get, the higher this number is, and the lower this number is, the higher your monthly cash flow will be. But sometimes you have to be willing to leave a little money in the deal. So BRRRRs are a little bit tricky. So there's other tools and everything on here that you guys can use. So just the way that you would have done the last one is just a straight up rental property calculator. And just be like, I'm not burning this, I'm not refinancing it, I'm not doing anything. This calculator is a little more involved, so it'll actually pull property data and stuff like that for you. So 124,800, we bought it at asking. We're gonna refinance immediately into a conventional loan, right? So let's say we had $4,500 in closing costs. Let's say you're not going to touch this property. You're not going to rehab it at all. This is buying a rent ready property that you don't have to do anything to, assuming that this one is just good to go the way it is. So you put, generally for a investment property, you're going to have to put minimum 20. You can put 25% down on there. Let's say you're putting the minimum 20% down because it's a single family house. Your interest rate is going to be that 6.5 because we're financing into a conventional loan for 30 years. Let's say the points charge is like, are you buying down your interest rate? Let's just say you got a straight up 6.5. You didn't buy any points. So this will actually tell you what the median rent is for this property. And it's like, hey, I'm pretty confident that this property can get $1,200 a month. Well, yeah, no shit, me too. Like you can get $1,250 Section 8, right? Let's say I'm really confident and I think I can get $1,400 for it, because truthfully, I think you could probably get that over here. It already calculated the property taxes, so we didn't have to go over here. And look, it's actually pretty accurate. I'll take that. Annual insurance, you can change this to monthly and do the same 120 there. Repairs and maintenance, 5. I think we were running 6% vacancy on there. CapEx, 10% management, no expenses because it's single family. Look, this would make you $118 a month if you just bought it as a rent-ready property and you literally didn't do anything to it. It's got a cash-on-cash return of 4.84%. I like to see at least something that's like 7%, but you're gonna have to do some rehab to get into that and a little bit more complicated numbers. But for a super simple rental calculation on does this property If I didn't do anything to it, I just bought it and threw a tenant in there, would it cash flow? Yeah, you cash flow about $118 a month. Net cash flow after all your expenses and everything. Any questions on this one? This one's a lot simpler than the BRRRR calculator. Nick, you got questions on this? He said no. Sweet. Does anybody want to go over the flip calculator? Oh, he does. Fix and flip. This one's super easy, and truthfully, I don't even use this. But you can, if you want to get really detailed into what a flip would be. I'm going to use a different property. Actually, one that we're purchasing here pretty soon. And I know what the numbers are. So 2216 Park Avenue is a property that I'm purchasing with a partner. He's bringing all the capital and the money. Actually, he's getting a hard money loan because this one's expensive. And we're bringing all the work and everything at cost. So after repair value, we know is $475,000 on this property. Desired profit. So I don't want to touch anything less. For me personally, if I can't gross a desired profit of $50,000, I really don't. It's not worth our time, because I'm splitting that in half because we each get 50-50, 50% of that at the end. Purchase closing costs. We did a hard money loan, so it's a little more expensive. I'll put that $6,500 in there. Rehab, it needs a little bit of rehab. It's like a 3,200 square foot house, but we're going to do this at cost. So we're going to go $90,000 in cost on the rehab. Holding cost per month is about $1,800 with our loan. We got that from a quote from Liz, who we're using as our hard money lender on there. How long will it take to rehab this property? I'm gonna put 8 weeks because it's my own, so I'm gonna make sure they get it done super quick. I'm gonna do this as a partnership deal, so there is no agent commission because I am the agent. Sale closing costs. Well, I guess that's not true. There's only half. So normally this number would be 6%, 3% to the buyer, 3% to the seller. But in this case, partner property, I'm going to go 3%. Sale closing costs, an additional 1%. So I'm going to take that 475 times 0.01. So 4750 in additional closing costs, just for rough numbers. So the way that this one works is the maximum allowable offer is what this will return for you, right? So it says basically if you wanted to make a profit of $50,000, you are allowed to offer $306,000 for this property, right? So if you're analyzing flips and you're like, ooh, does it make sense at the asking price? Boom, it tells you right here is based on those numbers, doesn't make sense at the asking price. Let's say they were asking $290,000 for this property at one point. So at those numbers, yeah, it would make sense. And adjust with your holding costs and your repair costs and things like that. If you're like, oh, I'm going to push this thing and I'm going to get an after repair value of $500,000, right? It changes that maximum allowable offer. But I'm going to always go a little bit more conservative. 475. I know I can get that. Yes, it's actually a 6-bedroom, 2-bathroom. And then it also tells you here how long you have. If you draw out that process, you're paying more per month. And if it takes you 2 years to do it, you might make $9,000. We don't want to do that. And if you do it in less time, it exponentially goes down because that's just how this chart is. So if we got it done in 8 weeks, we can make 50 grand, right? With rehab costs and holding costs at $93,000 on here. So we actually got this property for $275,000 was our actual flip with our real actual numbers. This one's also super simple. Is there any questions on the flip calculator? Sweet. Whoops. So I have never used any of the other ones. I just don't. We use the rental property rarely, fix and flip sometimes for maximum allowable offer. It's easier. The BRRRR calculator, if anybody's doing wholesaling, you can throw that in there too. There's a bunch of different things. I definitely recommend all my clients get the pro subscription to BiggerPockets. It's definitely worth it just for the calculators, because if you don't have it, you get like 5 or 10 free ones, and if you're doing it right, you'll use those up in like 3 days or less. Even I know clients who analyze 50 properties a day. It's ridiculous, but they have an Airbnb calculator and everything on here that actually hooks up to AirDNA, which is a data service for that. So this was an Airbnb we were actually looking at buying. That is probably not going to go through. So you can put in here. So this is actually a studio. There's only 1 bathroom. It can sleep up to 4 guests because we're going to have a sleeper couch. This property could earn $24,000 a year, right? So it's pretty basic in here. If you click on this button, you can go through and look into this. It takes you right to AirDNA. You can get a subscription to this. This is literally what it looks like. Tells you your occupancy rate, annual revenue, average daily rate on kind of what you could charge and everything for it. All those kind of stuff. Everything else on here, you have to subscribe, and I think it's like $100 a month or $25 a month or something like. There's a bunch of different levels. But if you're into Airbnbs, that's another thing on there. So any questions in general about any of the calculators or the BiggerPockets site or anything like that? I'm on there pretty often. Happy to answer any questions on any of that stuff. Okay, how about general questions about anything in general? Anything real estate related. We'll just open it up for general questions and answers. Nick, you're the only one that has your camera on, so I get to pick on you. You got any good questions for the people?
Fellow people. I guess just through some of the properties I've analyzed, I don't know. I probably have seen maybe 20.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only been like a handful that seemed realistic.
Yeah.
And good.
Yep. Have you been running them only one way though? So like Tony was saying, like the real power of these tools is the ability to manipulate your strategy with that particular property, right? So you can almost make any property work, right? It's just, does it work, for you and I, does it work for our clients, right? Nick is our agent in Indianapolis. We're getting up and running there. He's obviously a new agent. He's learning to do this guy, with us as we go through that and everything, but he can actually go physically see all the properties. He knows the areas super well, right? Most of the areas, you can't know everything, and to go through all that stuff, it comes down to just kind of manipulating the numbers realistically, obviously, to what's the play here, right? Do we go for maximum ARV because the rent is there? Do we go for minimum ARV? Do we just buy it as a rent ready property? What are our numbers on here?
Yeah,
so
I want to know what type of numbers are important. Like what's new to me that I've learned is like the cash on cash return.
Mm-hmm.
Or obviously like total return of investment percentage. Like I figured those are probably important to know when you're talking about doing flips or rentals.
Yep.
So what else is important if you're looking into getting something? What is another factor that's like maybe not exactly a deal breaker or a deal maker, but a very important, aspect when you're looking into investing in a property?
Yeah. So I mean, your most important numbers are kind of the ones you can see here, right? So it's your ARV to your gross rent and that kind of ratio, right? You want that to be damn close to 1%, right? If it's a $200,000 ARV, that thing better rent for $2,000 a month, right? Which doesn't really happen. But if it's $150,000 ARV, you can get those things to rent for $1,500, or $1,400, $1,450. And in this current market, I would definitely say that purchase prices are gonna generally, or ARVs, whatever, are gonna be higher than what your rent generally is. We're having to leave money in the deal. This is a long-term investment, not a short-term investment. So it's definitely kind of that ARV to gross rent ratio. Let me click in here real quick. These are just like all the ones that I've analyzed. Oh, no, not that. This one's not making $6,000 a month. This is that Airbnb that I did as a BRRRR. So these are like real numbers and stuff on here. So those are the cash purchase. So it has like infinite cash on cash return, because we could have actually made this a perfect BRRRR. It's available if anybody wants it. I have it under contract. But as an Airbnb, right, there's a lot more management and stuff like that goes in. This was a partnership deal, right? We got $365 a month on here. It's a full gut job. It's just really, really, really small. But again, we have our monthly income and our after repair value is literally exactly 1%, right? That's why this deal kind of makes sense on here. Airbnbs are a little different, but let's just assume this is a traditional rental property, and we can get $2,200 a month as a long-term rent, and the property is worth $220 afterwards. That's pretty good, right? We have infinite cash on cash return just because of how these numbers and stuff are working. That this is basically we have no cash invested in the deal because we refinanced out of all of it. But you have your cash flow number here. So your most important, again, that ratio for sure is what I look at. Yeah, that's what I'm sticking with. That number, that ratio is definitely the most important.
Why
me, at
didn't
least.
you decide to go through with that one?
We were supposed to close on the 30th, and we were supposed to close, and then we extended out till like yesterday that we could have closed, and then today we could have closed. And my partners was getting money from a friend of his, and his wife decided they didn't like the deal like last Friday, and so he's been scrambling to find somebody else, and he hasn't been able to. So we're just gonna be like, yep, nope, yeah. And we have another deal with that partner as well. We would rather do this flip property and do that for our first one together than go, all in on a management intensive Airbnb and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
that's a bummer.
yeah, it's a nice little property. The only real issue with it is there's no parking. Even street park, you have to park around the corner on this big ass hill in like downtown Cincinnati, and there's no parking in front of the building or anything because it's literally on, like, the address is Corporation Alley on there. So that's the real main reason. It's a nice little property and stuff. It's fully gutted on the inside.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we could swing it right now, but
you guys got that duplex that you gotta close on. No.
Our hands are a little full.
But no, I got you. Oh, Larry, you got a question? You should be able to unmute yourself, I think.
Sorry, technical issues. Question: when you're analyzing your Airbnbs, are you using AirDNA? What other data sources are you using? I always struggle because I look at AirDNA and I'm like, okay, how accurate is that? How are you?
Yeah, AirDNA is super accurate. Like that's like the Bible for people who invest in Airbnbs. Truthfully, our clients really don't do a lot of that. I don't think I've ever sold an intentional Airbnb to somebody. We've done some midterm rentals, and I don't distinguish between short-term and midterm. I call them all furnished rentals because they're going to be on Furnish Finder. They're going to be on VRBO and Airbnb and all those sites, because I don't care if you rent it for a night or if you rent it for 6 months, right? The price is basically the same. It all comes furnished. But AirDNA absolutely is the Bible for people who invest in those. And if you pay for kind of their premium subscriptions and everything, that data is super, super, super good. So like on this one, it's the same address when I pulled up the AirDNA stuff. It had like a 50% occupancy rate if you charge like $198 a month. For my play on this one would really be to charge like slightly below market, because it is smaller, and charge $100 a month to try to get that occupancy up, because then you get more cleaning fees and things like that. And yes, there's more management and stuff that goes up, but just more reviews that come in. And there's a whole way to do this. I'm by no means an Airbnb expert. I live in Cincinnati, not, Florida. So, the Airbnbs here are more for corporate type renters more than like vacation people. I don't necessarily know a ton of people who come to Cincinnati to vacation.
Gotcha.
I wish we had that tool when we did ours, because we were just like, well, it doesn't really matter if it makes money. It'll be paying most of the mortgage.
That's way back in the day, that's how people used to analyze it, is, well, my rent is more than my mortgage, so I'm good to go, right? And I still have clients who do it like that.
We literally, the house that we have up in Michigan, that's a vacation rental. That's what we did. I'm like, it doesn't really matter. It's just going to pay for the mortgage, right? That's all that really matters. Well, it's totally not all that matters.
Yeah, you have all these expenses you have to pay for. And then, you actually do your numbers and you're like, wow, I'm actually losing money. Like this kind of sucks. But you're gaining in equity in the property because you are still paying it down. And, I have clients who are cool with negative cash flow all day, but they're like appreciating areas where the mortgage is getting paid down, and like, I'm not going to replace my income, but I think in 5 years I'm going to be making $3,000 a month on cash flow on this property or whatever it is, right? That's kind of how commercial stuff works, honestly.
We still have to make a reservation to go to our own house.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So when you're looking at AirDNA and you've got the operating expenses on there, does that include all of your fees to like Airbnb, cleaning fees? Or are those numbers that you have to calculate separately?
So are you talking about like this section right here?
Yes.
Or just the AirDNA section?
Yeah, the AirDNA, because you know how AirDNA pulls up operating expenses as a bulk number and then net operating income, two separate numbers?
Yep. Whoops. I do not have a subscription to AirDNA, so let's type in Cincinnati. Let's look at AirDNA. So this is the free view because I don't have any of that stuff. So this is the entire city of Cincinnati. Obviously, the main bulk is right here. So when we analyzed this property, this house is Liberty. Corporation Alley is literally right here. Look, there's literally an Airbnb on the same street. So I use these as all the comps and everything on here. You can zoom into all this stuff. So the section that you're talking about is $78. There's so much stuff on, and this is the free section. If you unlock like all of this stuff, it gets ridiculous. So what section are you talking about on here?
See, I've got it pulled up, but it's not. Mine looks a little different than yours.
Oh, you probably have subscription or something like that.
Yeah, I just pulled it up through the BiggerPockets calculator.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you pulled that. Okay, I gotcha. What I use on AirDNA is you can kind of see like what your expenses are and stuff like that. Again, I am not an Airbnb expert. We do mostly long-term rentals or midterm. We have a lot of midterm rentals and stuff here. So I'm looking at like daily rates. I'm using it for comps, right? So like this property right here is available a lot. And average daily is $511. Okay, that's because it's 3 bedrooms. It's a whole house. So when I was looking at that property, I'm like, okay, what am I competing with on here? Here's a 1 bed, 1 bath, sleeps 4 people. Perfect. $139. Cool. It's available for 364 days of the year. That doesn't sound too good to me. Like some of this data is like, you kind of got to take worth a grain of salt on there, you know, like that's a pretty terrible occupancy rate on there. So I was like, okay, well, we have to be cheaper and stuff on here. And there's a lot of risk with Airbnb. That's why we do mostly long-term stuff or midterm stuff, just because it is less risk. If we were in a vacation area, something like that, okay, yeah, I'll do more Airbnb. But when I ran the numbers for that one, I put in, you know, general repair stuff. Obviously, we got to pay for electricity. You know, that's like the smallest place ever. I'm probably a little low on electricity, but not by much. Garbage is pretty cheap out there. Principal and interest on the loan, miscellaneous, whatever. There's no land, there's no yard to cut here, but miscellaneous stuff. CapEx, we're gutting the entire place, so there's not a whole lot of CapEx, water, sewer, insurance, tax, you know, all that kind of stuff. And this is, again, this is me just like really generically kind of running these numbers and looking at this. And the reason there's no management or anything like that in here is because we're doing that ourselves, right? We're doing the construction ourselves. We're doing the management ourselves. We're doing, you know, the listing on Airbnb and stuff like that. And I'm basically assuming that this monthly income is after Airbnb fees. Because truthfully, I don't even know what those are.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So I book quite a bit on Airbnb, but again, we don't do a whole ton of that stuff. But I really like this little property, and I thought it could be fairly decent. So, but didn't work out. I'm going to stick to the flips for right now, truthfully. So, any other questions you guys got? All good. I hope this was at least somewhat helpful on at least how I use the BiggerPockets calculate, you know, all the various different calculators. They're pretty self-explanatory. The BRRRR calculator is definitely the one we use the most, but it's also the most confusing, especially for all the different loan types and everything. But, you know, I think Tony said it best, like the best way to think of it is it's a tool that you can use to manipulate and see how those numbers change, right? See what you care about. Some people care cash on cash returns. Some people care about, you know, monthly cash flow. You know, some people care about, you know, money left in the deal, you know, whatever it may be. It's all personal preference on what you feel your investing criteria is and what your numbers are on things. So I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to answer any individual questions if need be. So good deal. Well, I will see everybody later. It's 9:55 here, so time to go to bed.
Thanks, thank you.
Yep, no worries. You guys want to stay on and hang out?
Howdy, partner.
I removed them.
Get booted.